I want to introduce the next speaker. So how many of you here are single? All right. All right. How many of you are on Tinder? First match on Tinder gets a ticket for next year. So if you get on Tinder and you match with somebody here, you get a ticket for next year. I want to give you some stats around Match. So Fran Maier is the co-founder of Match. Supposedly, 500,000 relationships have been created through Match and roughly 100,000 marriages. But what's really interesting is that they claim that 1 million babies were created. So I guess people are doing premarital sex, but 415 million messages are sent. So Fran joined Match in 1994 to kind of drive this whole thing, and I'm sure she'll talk a little bit more about what she has been up to. Let me help a little bit here.
Well, I think,
say hello.
First of all, I was going to ask how many of you are single? So he already asked that, but I didn't get to see the answer. How many of you ever used Match.com? Okay, you're all probably too young. How many of you are female entrepreneurs? Okay, good. So, gentlemen, there will be some things here that are being a little bit more to the women, but I often tell my college-age son he has to lean in. So, it's okay. What I want to talk about is embracing the female consumer, and I want to talk a little bit about how to get there. And I want to tell especially the women who are the entrepreneurs in this audience that she is you. And we're going to talk about some of the issues that Randy talked about too. But before I do that, I want to tell a little bit about my journey. And my first internet company was Match.com 20 years ago. In fact, I had a party at my house for the original Match.com team. And we've all gotten older and better and all of that good stuff. But 20 years ago, women were not a very big part of the internet. In fact, there were maybe 20% of AOL and 10% of what we then called, and we don't even use this term anymore, the World Wide Web. So now, of course, we're near parity. And when we started Match.com in 1995, we were going after women. We decided that women were the market because if we could get women, and back then personals were on the newspaper were very sleazy. There were 900 numbers. Anybody remember that? You'd call a 900 number and the newspaper would get money based on how many minutes you stayed on the phone and so on. So they're very sleazy, and sometimes people would put ads that would say, hey, I'm open to a gangbang, just so it would generate more phone calls, right? Okay, so very sleazy, and unfortunately that's part of the story. So we wanted to make it a clean, well-lit place. We decided to focus on women. Now, for those of you who have ever done an online dating profile, have you ever had to put in your weight? Okay, that's because of me. And the story here is that you wouldn't say that Match.com is aimed just at women, obviously women and men and connecting and so on, but a women's perspective made a very big difference. I'll give you two examples. The first is the weight question. The engineer comes in, what are our weight ranges? And I look up at him, and at this point I had just had my second child, and I looked at him and I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to come up with other phrases, athletic, trim, Rubenesque. And that worked out fine, and that set the tone. So marketing to women or getting to women isn't just marketing to women and having pink colors and buying women's-oriented media. It's also thinking about what do they want. The second example that was, I think, important was we're trying to figure out the business model. How were we going to make money? And I remember being in the room with the engineer and one of the other founders and one of the investors and another biz dev guy. Often these meetings, I would call them the whose is bigger meeting, because each of the guys would go around and say, well, I did this here, and I did this here, and I did this there. And it would take 5 minutes before we could get to the topic at hand. And the idea on the table was that we were going to charge 10 cents or a nickel per email for people to connect. Now, if you're really trying to attract women, most women would say, nah, that doesn't really make me feel good, right? It's kind of nickel and diming, it's putting a price on you, and women just generally don't like that. I had just worked at AAA in Northern California, and I don't even have to ask, 90% of you have a AAA card in your wallet or in your car. The power of membership is very, very powerful. For women, and for men alike, it denotes a higher level, a prestige, an exclusivity. And a membership model, as I think many of you entrepreneurs probably know, there's, what's the phrase? I'm losing it at the moment. Annuity business. And you can upsell, you can cross-sell. So the membership model was something that I also take credit. And those are just two examples of reasons why I think having a woman on the Match.com team was extremely critical to Match.com's success. So I say to all of you entrepreneurs, women and men, and too many entrepreneurs, there's another dating site that is not well known. And I talked to the CEO, and they're doing very good. I'm not going to name them. I talked to the CEO, and I said, well, who are you targeting? And he described exactly himself. Okay? And Silicon Valley often gets criticized for not doing targeting or targeting products and services that they want, but that maybe the rest of the world doesn't want. So it's really important to think carefully about your target. And I would submit that many of you have business models that ought to be thinking more about women, because women have the power of the purse. Now, all of you have probably heard that women control household spending. And many of you maybe even experienced that women control household spending. But consider that 60% of college graduates are women. And that's been going on for a long time now. So now these women are the purchasing managers in companies. So even if you're doing a B2B play, or even if you think that women are not a primary target, they are probably an important persona to think about what things do they need. I'm going to go fast because I can't do this whole presentation in 20 minutes. Purchasing power. Some of this makes sense, but I don't think there's any question why there's a female who's running General Motors right now. And the social web. Everybody knows that this is a big issue. In fact, when Twitter was about to go public, the fact that they did not have a woman on their board, given that women are such a high percentage of their users, was an issue. I'm sure most of you thought about that. I took this picture in India, and I guess there's 2 points I want to make. She's mobile and she's global. I mean, increasingly, women across the world are using smartphones and other kinds of technologies. You know, I am one of the, I'm becoming a trend in that I carry my iPhone now with a wallet with my credit cards, and I have electronic locks, so I don't need to carry keys. And, you know, I should probably put on lipstick more. Those were the 3 things, you know, money, lipstick, and keys. Now it's just my iPhone and my wallet, right? And we have to go get her. So I already talked about the social networking. She is connecting. She's everywhere. She wants to get things done. And here's the other thing. It really does not have to be pink. It's not just about the colors. It's about really understanding who she is. This is the targeting point. You know, and women especially really want product value. They want convenience. They want fun, and they want to solve a problem, because there's not near enough time in the day. I don't care what survey you look about work-life balance and how much men do work in the home, and clearly many men do. Women still are the most squeezed. So respecting her time is a really important thing. We have to make ads relevant, because that's the only thing that she's going to pay attention to. And you have to earn her trust. And if you lose her trust, it's going to be hard to get back. Now, the picture of Peggy Olson, I'm sure all of you are looking forward to the Mad Men finale on Sunday. And maybe we've seen the last of Peggy, I don't know. But if some of you have listened to it, Peggy Olson plays a creative director on Mad Men. Actually, she's not a creative director yet. She has not yet been promoted. So when she talks to Don Draper, he asks her, what's your dream? I want to be one of the first female creative director. Now, this is set in 1970. We have not gone far. women are only 3% of creative directors in ad agencies, which ought to remind most of you, especially the women, you may know more about your target than people who say that they are the experts in ad agencies and so on. 3%. I mean, in what year is it? 2015? So we're like, oh my God. Crazy. Okay, so I work with some female-led startups. They're doing some fun things. Couple things to know. Not all of them are focused on the women's market. So Solomo does shortwave beacons and tracking and analysis. Peg and shopping quizzes. Shopping quizzes is about e-commerce, trying to help you make a better decision. Peg social. But some of these things are about the women's market, and one of the things that's really difficult about it is sometimes, and this is going back to what Randy was talking about at venture capital, when you don't have a female venture capitalist or investor or angel network to look at your deal, they just might not get it. So one of the companies is Ruby Ribbon. Is that showing up there? Huh. And they make basically shapewear. Gals, you know what shapewear is, right? Well, it's kind of hard to get, she did get funding, but importantly from 2 female venture capitalists. Oh, there it goes. So the last point one of the last points I want to make, this is the picture of the original Match.com team at our celebration a couple of weeks ago. So we're all 20 plus years older, but we were all there. There was a lot of gals there, were a lot of guys. Women are starting up more businesses at a faster rate than men. There's a lot of evidence that suggests diverse teams make a big difference, and I think today we've been talking about that. There's even some evidence that women-led companies outperform those led by men. I'm not sure that that's the point. In fact, I don't even think we should have to prove it. I think it's just a given that diverse teams and people who can bring a variety of perspectives is important to the ongoing success of any team. After Match, I did a couple startups, women.com and then bluelight.com, and then I went on to take over Trustee, which is at the time a nonprofit. Trustee is a privacy organization, certifies your privacy policies and also some other technology. And in 2008, we went from a nonprofit to a for-profit. Now, what happened with Match for me is we sold it for less than $7 million in 1998. And I got $100,000 for helping to sell it. I got $100,000 for transitioning it. And my now ex-husband was very happy with that. And it didn't take very long for me to understand that that was a big fuck up. And back in 1998, I'll take some responsibility, but I'll just set the context. Match.com was owned by a company called Electric Classifieds. Electric Classifieds wanted to go after the newspaper classifieds. Our investors thought Match.com was sleazy. Even though we were making money and I was running it cash flow positive, this is a social network that it's in its 2nd or 3rd year is running cash flow positive. It's kind of crazy, right? I had 2 small children, and I was fighting battles every day, either at work or at home. When Electric Classifieds decided to sell Match.com, nobody said to me, Fran, why don't you lead the investment or try to find the investors? And I think I could have, but it would have been nice. I did not have the confidence. I did not have the wherewithal. I was too tired. I was too beaten down. And I was too insecure to ask for help. When you have confidence and you're in charge of things, you know how to ask for help. I think had I done that, somebody would have said, are you crazy? This thing is great. You should at least run it. We sold it to Sendit for $7 million. Sendit sold it to IAC a year later for $70 million. And I got congratulated on that day, but I didn't get anything for it. So it's 10 years later, and I'm running Trustee as a non-for-profit, and this time And Trustee is a good brand. I mean, I'm very proud of Trustee, but it's not Match, right? But this time I do switch it from a nonprofit to a for-profit. I get investment from Excel. I get a board member that's a woman. I'm much more confident. And we switched the company. And so the point is, at least I got a do-over, and that's always a good thing to say. When we switched Trustee from nonprofit to for-profit, my company that was maybe 60% women became about 50 or 45% women. We hired a lot of engineers, product guys from VeriSign. And you know what? The guys liked working there. They were like, wow, it's great to work in a company with a bunch of women. You know, I mean, it was a change from what they were experiencing. I think we had a much better company for that. So I'll try and end up real quick. I think most of you have seen some of the news. Women are underrepresented in venture capital. That creates some issues in tech firms, in venture partners, angel investors. And one of the things I'm trying to do is get women who have money to invest in startups. They should. Board members, and then we have images like this. Now, I know the show is hilarious. But all you see here is hair diversity. And then this comes on my Facebook page, okay? My Facebook page says, we funder. We want to fund early access to the hottest startups. Again, hair diversity. But why is this on my Facebook page, honestly? And there's not a no-like button. And, you know, I've commented. This is a picture of some of the women from Women's Startup Lab. And, you know, again, I think 20 years later, there are now resources like accelerators, investment groups, Springboard, Golden Seeds, Astia, Women's Startup Lab, Y Combinator, and 500 Startups are both trying to make sure that they have enough women. I mean, there's so much more support, and it's so needed because when I showed one of my entrepreneurs this picture, she looked at me and she said, but they do look like that. You know, so even now, in the age of Lean In the age of Ellen Powell and all that discussion, in the time where this is really part of the social meme, I still have female startup founders who don't know how to ask for money, aren't confident, you know, who have to have every question answered before they'll go pitch a product, who don't have the same attitude as many male founders and entrepreneurs. And sometimes I say to one of my entrepreneurs, okay, what if you were a guy, what would you do? And they totally come to a different place. I mean, so women, we need to step up. We need to help each other. We need to coach. We need to be doing the kinds of things that will lead to success. And, you know, the challenges, these are some of them. I'm trying to be a role model. I think there's more and more role models. There's more and more coaching. I think there's more people trying to look at the issue of addressing capital. There is harassment, not all the time, not necessarily harassment that all of us would recognize as harassment, but sort of insidious, slow, and going on. Time, support, and then there's question. I mean, some people say there's a fear of success. Some people say there's a fear of failure. I don't know. In any case, for women, and I'll extend this to men, help one another. It's not all about competition. One of the ways you succeed in Silicon Valley is by making deals, making strategic partnerships, playing it forward. Know you're a woman, so use your advantage. Do the deal with one another. The purse there is a friend and I, whenever we help each other, like with a big introduction or something that has led to something, we've given each other a purse. And it's just a nice way to sort of honor the relationship. Find male champions. And guys, you know, be willing to champion women. Work with them, partner with them, and so on. Women often also shortchange themselves. They don't hire the assistant. They don't get the coaching. They fly a crazy schedule to reduce their costs. So don't do that. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself because if you don't, nobody else is going to. Take the risk and be hot and get what you deserve and have some confidence. That's what I want to end with. Thank you. Do I have time for questions?
Just because I don't want people to yell at me that we didn't have questions. Any questions?
Just because?
No, I mean, I get in trouble, and then I'm always the one like, oh, it's your fault, we're running late. And I don't know, I think it's cool to have questions. All right, questions? By the way, any matches yet on Tinder? Seriously. Just go to 1 mile, and there's got to be someone here right for you.
Hello? Yeah. Based on your experience on female markets, do you think there's any specific markets that we're currently lacking that target the female population?
I think we're doing much better than we were. Kangadoo is an app to get parents together to try and coordinate play dates and things like that. It's now turning in Uber for parents, you know? And I can tell you, moms are extremely excited to get out of the role of the primary driver in the family. So that's an example of one. I think fashion is kind of slow to start. I think there's going to be more household helping apps, and a lot of local stuff is, the hyper-local oftentimes speaks to just getting things done, productivity, household shopping, things like that.
Hi, great talk, thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick question. I am an entrepreneur in the education space, and I'm always very interested in having women and female participants, come and talk to me, or even I approaching them and so forth. But anytime I go to a conference like this, I see a bunch of women, I hesitate to approach them because they're all sort of talking to each other, and as I step towards them, I get the feeling that they don't, it's, I don't know, it's just, isn't me, or is it something that, you advise, make me part of your, and I feel like an alien. I feel like, hey, come on, I don't feel the same comfort.
Okay, get over it.
That's a great advice, thank you.
Yeah. I think all of us sometimes are resistant to go into a group. Part of the reason why we have these numbers is because there's a preference to, quote, people we know, right? So companies, my last company, Trustee, when we brought in a new CEO, we hired a lot more men. I was like, come on, we've got to broaden this up. And it was like, but I know this guy. Board members, VC firms, investment things. It's because people go to who they know. They have a trust that's like who they know, right? Or somebody else knows them and they trust that guy. Men have been, and it's not like these guys are necessarily saying they're not feminists. In fact, they may have very professionally achieved women in their lives, their wives or whatever, their mothers. But, we have all got to get out of our comfort zone and look at people who we don't know or who are in the other circle. Your experience is funny because that's the way women feel oftentimes, but it's not just the men and women thing, it's also the cross-racial and things like that. We have got to break these things down, and we have to be conscious of trying to expand our pool of who we're looking for certain jobs and so on. I can tell you, I don't think there's any board of directors in this country that is all female. I don't think, or all black, or all in, well, maybe. I'll leave it there. Any other questions? Do I have time? No? One more.
So I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a female CEO. What does it take to have you as a mentor?
You know what? I advise a number of companies, probably too many. But the thing that seems to work is the ones who are more aggressive. And I even tell advisees once I decide to advise them, it's like, don't think I'm going to call you. If you want my perspective on something, you really do have to call me or come by my house or buy me coffee. Not even lunch, But I'm trying to figure out how best to spend my time. And sometimes I have conflicts. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fran.